Hello, I'm Brian Fox. Welcome to my channel, I Hate Rock Music. And today I'm going to talk about a pretty amazing band, the Punks. They came out of Detroit in 1973, and there's not much material out there by them, and what there is pretty rare to come by in physical form. Luckily, we have YouTube, where we might not even know about this band. But they came out of Waterford, Michigan, 1973, just outside of Detroit. And it was William Frantic Kukon on vocals, Alan Weber on guitar, Steve Rocky on guitar, Rod McMahon on bass, and Craig Weber on drums. And just the fact that they were called the Punks in 1973 is awesome. And then apparently their shows were just insane. And they used to use costumes and things like that, and were very flamboyant. And the lead singer was very flamboyant and copped a lot of Iggy's moves and everything else, which is also incredible considering the last Stooges album, Raw Power, came out in '73, the same year that this band showed up. And one reviewer said that, quote, the Punks played in such a gut-grabbing manner that your ear bones felt like they were being socked into your jaw, unquote. So they have a reputation for being super intense and super loud. And I can imagine listening to their recordings. Some of these recordings are live, and you get some feel for how amazing they were. And they recorded 1973 and 1974 demos, and some of those will be posted below. And so they were around from 1973 to 1977. And so they're at the tail end of the heydays in Detroit with the Stooges and the MC5 and the Up and all those incredible bands. So they found themselves with a problem being in Detroit in the last days of the high energy scene there. And so in 1977 they moved to New York and called themselves The End, which is also an interesting name. And they just went nowhere, and so they all moved back to their hometowns, and most of them retired. Apparently they've gotten together for reunions here and there just for fun. But there's a limited edition CD that is impossible to find. I've never been able to get one, called The Most Powerful Music on Earth. And then in 2005, there was a full LP of that material released on the Italian label Rave Up. And according to the people in the band, they've got a ton of stuff sitting in the vault. So I don't know if that material is ever going to come out. Seems like there'd be enough interest in one of these boutique labels will snag him, but he claims to have a ton of stuff still in the vault, and I'd love to hear it if the stuff that it's out there now is any indication. But they have everything I like about rock and roll. They were loud with a lot of energy and really intense. And when you hear the music, it definitely comes across. And the fact that they're a two-guitar band gives them a lot of extra power, but their material is really striking. Definitely reminds me of what Iggy was doing by 1973, and that makes the band all the more interesting because Raw Power came out, and they were already doing that kind of music. So we have to give them a lot of props for coming up with that music without necessarily hearing the Raw Power album. Obviously, they were familiar with the Stooges, but the fact that they were doing the kind of material the Stooges were doing in '73 and they're doing it in '73 tells me they came up with it on their own, and so it's very impressive. But boy, what a great high-energy Detroit band. They're definitely proto-punk and ahead of their times, and they would have done really well in the punk era if they just stuck to their guns. But again, the fact that they were doing this kind of music in '73 and even calling themselves the Punks makes them an important ingredient in the punk to come, and the fact that they were way ahead of their time. So anyway, the Punks, wow, really something. If you haven't heard them before, or you're a Stooges fan, you're in for a huge treat. And if you just love Detroit high energy rock, you're in for a treat too. I'll post all the very available material that's on YouTube in the links below, and you check them out. I'm Brian Fox. Thanks for watching I Hate Rock Music.